The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floor. Representatives from 200 species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from gaseous clouds contained in force fields to massive rock-like beings that rarely moved. Ambassador David Chen of Earth sat in the human section, a modest area near the back of the chamber. His dark suit looked plain compared to the elaborate robes and biological displays around him. Chen had attended these meetings for 5 years now. He knew the routine. The powerful species spoke first. The military empires made their declarations. The trading federations announced their profits. And humanity? Humanity listened and nodded and tried not to draw attention. Today was no different except for one thing. The Vraxian Empire had something to say about humans. Commander Thorax of the Vraxian military stood at the central podium. His species looked like massive insects with 6 legs and 4 arms covered in purple chitin armor. His voice boomed through the translation devices everyone wore. "We have completed our assessment of human military capability," Thorax announced. The massive screens around the chamber lit up with images of human ships. They showed Earth's cruisers, destroyers, and the small orbital stations around human colonies. Chen watched without expression. He had seen this presentation before in private meetings. Now it was going public. The human fleet consists of approximately 3,000 vessels, Thorax continued. Their largest ships use fusion drives, primitive. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and basic energy beams. Their armor is standard titanium alloys. In short, human military technology is roughly 200 years behind current galactic standards. Laughter rippled through several sections of the chamber. The Zelthian trademasters clicked their mandibles in amusement. Even the normally polite Andromedan collective showed flickers of blue light that indicated humor. Chen clasped his hands on his desk. He kept his face neutral. Beside him, Admiral Sarah Kozlov sat perfectly still. She was the only human military officer allowed in council chambers. Her gray uniform had no medals, no decorations. She looked like a simple soldier. Chen knew better. "We do not mean to insult our human friends," Thorax said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "Earth has contributed much to our community. Their art is interesting. Their food is exotic. Their diplomatic efforts are sometimes useful. But militarily," he gestured at the screens, "they are children playing with toys." More laughter. Chen noticed that not everyone was laughing. The Kepler Union representatives, a species that had been conquered twice in their history, looked uncomfortable. The crystalline minds, ancient beings of living crystal, showed no reaction at all. They never did. "We bring this matter before the council for an important reason," Thorax said. His voice became more serious. "The human colonies are vulnerable. They sit on valuable trade routes. Their mining operations produce resources the galaxy needs, and they cannot defend themselves." Chen felt his stomach tighten. Here it came. "The Vraxian Empire proposes a protection agreement," Thorax announced. "We will station our fleets near human colonies. We will guard their trade ships. We will ensure their safety. In exchange, humans will grant us access to their mining operations and allow Vraxian administrators to oversee colonial governance." The chamber went quiet. Every species understood what this meant. This was not protection. This was annexation dressed in polite words. The council chairman, a floating entity of pure energy named Brightness of Dawn, spoke in a voice like singing crystals. "Does the human delegation wish to respond?" Chen stood slowly. He walked to the speaker's platform reserved for minor species. It was much smaller than the central podium where Thorax stood. "The human government thanks the Vraxian Empire for their concern," Chen said. His voice was calm and measured. "We will need time to consider this proposal. We request 72 hours to consult with Earth." 72 hours, Thorax agreed. "But understand this, Ambassador Chen. The galaxy is not a safe place for weak species. You have that time to decide. Accept our protection or face the consequences of refusing it." The threat was clear. Everyone in the chamber heard it. "Accept Vraxian control or be conquered." Chen bowed slightly. "We understand completely, Commander Thorax. Thank you for your clarity." He returned to his seat. Kozlov leaned close and whispered, "That arrogant insect just made the biggest mistake of his life." Chen allowed himself the smallest smile. "Let him enjoy these 72 hours. They'll be his last moments of peace." The council session continued, but Chen barely listened. His mind was already moving through the protocols he would need to activate. 50 years. Humanity had waited 50 years for this moment. They had played the role of weak newcomers perfectly. They had let themselves be underestimated, mocked, and dismissed. The truth was hidden across dozens of star systems, hidden in asteroid fields that looked like mining operations, hidden in deep space stations that appeared to be research facilities, hidden inside the hollow shells of those primitive cruisers that everyone laughed at. When Chen was young, he had asked his grandmother why humans lied about their strength. She had told him a story about Earth's history, about a time when nations hid their weapons and called it deterrence. The enemy you can see is one thing, she had said. The enemy you cannot measure is terrifying. After the session ended, Chen and Kozlov returned to the human embassy ship in orbit. It looked small compared to the massive vessels of other species. Inside, however, it connected to quantum encrypted communication, channels that reached across all of human space. Chen sat at his desk and opened a secure channel to Earth. The face of Defense Coordinator Maria Santos appeared on the screen. They made their move? Santos asked. 72 hours to accept Vraxian annexation, Chen confirmed. Santos nodded. The Olympus Protocol? Yes, Chen said. It's time. Understood. The activation codes are being transmitted now. Santos paused. David, are you sure about this? Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. The galaxy will know what we really are. Chen thought about the laughter in the council chamber. He thought about Thorax's smug voice calling human ships toys. He thought about 50 years of careful planning and patience. They were always going to find out eventually, Chen said. Every empire in galactic history has followed the same pattern. Expand until you meet resistance. The Vraxians were just the first to be stupid enough to target us. Better to show our hand now on our terms than wait until we're truly threatened. Agreed, Santos said. Olympus Protocol is active. All hidden assets are being awakened. The fleet will be ready in 60 hours. After the call ended, Chen stood at the window of his office. Below, the council station glittered with lights from hundreds of ships. The Vraxian fleet was clearly visible, massive warships arranged in an intimidating formation. They looked powerful. They looked unstoppable. Chen wondered how their sensors would react when Earth's real fleet emerged. He wondered what Thorax would think when he saw what humanity had actually built in 50 years of secrecy. Kozlov joined him at the window. Do you think any of them suspect? She asked. No, Chen said quietly. They see what they expect to see. Weak humans and weak ships. They never ask the important questions, like why we accepted such a small territory, or why we never pushed for more colonies. Exactly, Chen said. They think we're limited by technology. They don't understand that we were limited by choice. We didn't need more colonies. We just needed time. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, mining stations were transforming. Weather satellites were dropping their disguises. Underground facilities were opening massive doors. And the hollow cruisers that everyone mocked were beginning to split apart, revealing what they had always been designed to carry. The galaxy had 72 hours of peace remaining. Chen intended to enjoy every moment of it. The countdown began immediately. Across the galaxy, news networks broadcast the Vraxian ultimatum. Most commentators agreed that humanity would surrender. A few sympathetic voices suggested that Earth might try to negotiate. Nobody predicted resistance. On Earth, Defense Coordinator Maria Santos stood in the war room, a massive underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, holographic displays showed every human colony, every ship, and every hidden asset scattered across their territory. 300 officers worked at their stations, their faces calm despite the situation. Status report, Santos said. General Park, head of fleet operations, stepped forward. All Olympus assets responding to activation codes. Jupiter Station confirms transformation sequence initiated. Mars Olympus Complex reports fleet deployment in progress. Kuiper facilities are mobilizing. Time to full readiness? 58 hours, Park said. Well within the deadline, Santos nodded. For 50 years, humanity had prepared for this. Every mining operation in the asteroid belt had a secondary purpose. Every research station had hidden weapons. Every colony had underground bunkers filled with ships that had never been seen by alien eyes. The cost had been enormous. 30% of humanity's resources had gone into the Olympus Protocol. Entire generations had worked in secret, building weapons in hidden shipyards, developing technology behind closed doors. Children had grown up learning to keep humanity's greatest secret. What about the Vraxian fleet? Santos asked. 500 warships departed their staging area 1 hour ago, Park reported. Current course brings them to Mars in 70 hours. They're taking the long route, probably to intimidate our colonies along the way. Let them come, Santos said quietly. Send the signal to all human vessels. Ghost Protocol is now in effect. All civilian ships are to dock at the nearest station. All military assets are to assume combat readiness, but maintain their disguises until ordered otherwise. Across human space, the message was received. Cargo ships suddenly diverted to stations. Trading vessels accelerated home. To external observers, it looked like humans were evacuating in panic. Galactic news networks reported that Earth was preparing to surrender. On Mars, inside the massive shield volcano called Olympus Mons, Admiral Sarah Kozlov walked through corridors that no alien had ever seen. The mountain was hollow. Humanity had spent 40 years carving out its interior, replacing rock with hangars and weapon systems and power cores. She reached the command deck and looked at the display showing her fleet. 2,000 warships sat in their cradles, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. They didn't look like the ships the galaxy knew. These vessels were sleek and deadly, covered in armor that could shift and adapt. Their weapons were hidden behind panels that would open only in combat. Status? Kozlov asked her second-in-command. All ships ready for launch, Commander Jackson reported. Crews are aboard. Weapon systems are charging. We can be out of the mountain in 30 minutes. Good, Kozlov said. But we wait. Let the Vraxians get closer. Let them think they're winning. She pulled up a communication channel to Jupiter Station. The station commander, Admiral Thomas Chen, appeared on the screen. He was the ambassador's brother, though few people knew that. How's the transformation going? Kozlov asked. Thomas grinned. The Vraxians cataloged this station as a civilian trading post. They counted 46 docking ports and gave us a threat rating of 0. They're going to be very surprised when those docking ports rotate and reveal themselves as gravitational lance batteries. And the civilian ships docked there? All evacuated. We're just a weapons platform now, the biggest one humanity ever built, and the galaxy never even noticed we were constructing it. Similar conversations were happening across human space. Near the Kuiper Belt, mining facilities were revealing their true nature. What looked like drilling equipment was actually massive engines. The mining stations began to move, taking up defensive positions. Each one was 3 times the size of the largest alien dreadnought. In deep space, weather satellites near human colonies began dropping their disguises. The solar panels folded away. The sensors retracted, and beneath the fake civilian equipment, weapons emerged. Point defense systems, missile batteries, shield generators powerful enough to protect entire planets. On the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Chen prepared for a public broadcast. The Council had offered him the chance to address the galaxy before the deadline expired. They expected him to announce surrender. The betting pools across hundreds of worlds had odds of 1,000 to 1 against human resistance. Chen sat in front of the camera, his suit perfectly pressed, his expression calm. Behind him, a simple image of Earth hung in space, looking peaceful and blue and vulnerable. People of the galaxy, Chen began. For 50 years, humanity has been honored to be part of this great community. We have learned from you. We have traded with you. We have tried to be good neighbors. On a million worlds, people watched. Most were already bored, waiting for the inevitable surrender. The Vraxian Empire has given us an ultimatum, Chen continued. Accept their protection or face conquest. They believe this choice is simple because they believe we are weak. They have assessed our military and found it primitive. They have counted our ships and dismissed them as toys. Chen paused. Something in his tone changed. The boredom began to fade from his audience. The Vraxian Empire is correct about one thing, Chen said. The ships they have seen are primitive. The weapons they have cataloged are outdated. The defenses they have measured are insufficient. Across the galaxy, people leaned forward. Was he actually surrendering? But the Vraxian Empire made one critical mistake, Chen said, and now he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. They assumed that what they could see was all that existed. They assumed that humanity, a species with a long history of warfare and survival, would enter the galaxy without proper preparation. They assumed we were foolish enough to show our true strength before it was necessary. In the war room on Earth, Santos watched the broadcast and smiled. It was time. Activate Olympus Protocol, she ordered. Full reveal. Let the galaxy see what we really are. The orders went out on quantum-encrypted channels, moving at speeds the galaxy considered impossible. Human ships received their commands simultaneously, despite being separated by dozens of light years. On Mars, Olympus Mons began to open. The western slope of the mountain split along invisible seams. Massive doors, each one 10 kilometers wide, swung outward. From inside the mountain, ships began to rise. They moved in perfect formation, 2,000 vessels emerging from what the galaxy had thought was just a volcano. At Jupiter Station, the transformation began. The trading post rotated on hidden axes. The civilian docking ports swung away, and behind them massive weapons emerged. The station's true size became apparent. It wasn't a small trading post. It was a battle station the size of a small moon. In the Kuiper Belt, the mining facilities finished their repositioning. There were 12 of them, each one now revealed as a mobile fortress. Their hulls were covered in weapons. Their engines glowed with antimatter reactions that produced more power than most planets consumed. And the human cruisers, those primitive vessels that everyone had mocked, began to split open. Their hulls separated along carefully designed seams. Each cruiser had been a shell, a disguise. Inside every one, 20 smaller warships had been hidden, compressed and stacked like nesting dolls. The cruisers fell away like discarded cocoons, and from each one a swarm of advanced fighters emerged. On monitoring stations across the galaxy, sensors began to scream warnings. Energy readings were spiking. Mass calculations were being revised upward. Threat assessments were being completely rewritten. Chen continued his broadcast, his voice calm and measured. We did not want this confrontation. We hoped to maintain peaceful relations with all species, but humanity learned long ago that peace is only possible when strength backs it up. We have that strength. We have always had it. We simply chose not to display it. He leaned forward slightly. To the Vraxian Empire we say this: reverse your course. Return your fleet to your space. Withdraw your ultimatum. If you do this within the next hour, we will consider this matter closed. If you do not, Chen's smile widened, then you will discover exactly how primitive human weapons really are. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy there was silence, not the silence of boredom or dismissal, the silence of shock. The silence of 200 species realizing they had completely misjudged one of their own. Commander Thorax watched the broadcast from his flagship at the head of the Vraxian fleet. Around him, his officers stared at their sensors in disbelief. This must be a trick, Thorax said. They cannot have hidden this much military power, but the sensors did not lie. Ahead of them, human space was lighting up with energy signatures. Ships were appearing where there should be none. Weapons were powering up across dozens of systems. Commander, his tactical officer said quietly, the power readings from those stations? They're impossible. The weapons we're detecting, they're technologies we've never seen before. Thorax felt something he had not experienced in his long military career. Doubt. Continue course, he ordered. They are bluffing. Humans are weak. This is all a show. The Vraxian fleet continued forward, 500 warships arrayed in standard battle formation. Their hulls were painted with victory marks from a dozen conquests. Their weapons had destroyed countless enemies. Commander Thorax stood on his bridge, surrounded by tactical displays and confident officers. Human fleet detected. His sensor officer reported. 40 vessels on intercept course. Thorax clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. 40 ships against 500. This will be over quickly. They send these few vessels to meet us? Pathetic. But something was wrong. The sensor officer's antennae were twitching with confusion. Commander, the readings from those ships, they don't match our database. The power signatures are wrong. The mass calculations keep changing. Sensor malfunction, Thorax declared. Recalibrate and continue scan. Across the galaxy, every species with monitoring capability was watching. The Council had opened emergency observation channels. Millions of beings tuned in to see the confrontation between the mighty Vraxian Empire and the weak humans. Most expected a quick victory. A few hoped for a miracle. Admiral Kozlov stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UHSV Olympus. Around her, a fleet that the galaxy had never imagined hung in space. These were not the crude cruisers the aliens knew. These vessels were weapons of art and science combined. Their hulls were made from materials that could redistribute kinetic impacts. Their engines bent space itself to achieve speeds that violated what the galaxy thought possible. Their weapons were designed by a species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times and learned from every mistake. Distance to Vraxian fleet? Kozlov asked. 2 million kilometers in closing, her tactical officer responded. They're maintaining course. No sign of hesitation. Send the warning, Kozlov ordered. A single transmission went out on all standard frequencies. The voice was calm and clear. Vraxian fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Kozlov of the United Human Space Navy. You are approaching restricted territory. Reverse course immediately. You have 60 seconds to comply. On the Vraxian flagship, Thorax heard the message and laughed. His officers joined him. 60 seconds? They give us 60 seconds? He opened a channel to his fleet. All vessels, weapons free. Prepare to demonstrate Vraxian power. The countdown began. On Earth, in the war room, Maria Santos watched the displays with cold eyes. They're not turning back, she said quietly. No, General Park confirmed. Vraxian fleet accelerating. They're committing to the attack. Then we commit to the response, Santos said. Execute demonstration protocol. Target one vessel. Show them what human weapons can do. The order reached Kozlov instantly through quantum-entangled communication systems. Demonstration protocol confirmed, she said. Weapons, select the lead destroyer in their formation. Gravitational lance, single shot. Let them see something they've never dreamed of. The UHV Olympus rotated slightly. Along its dorsal hull, a section of armor retracted. What emerged looked like a long crystal spire, glowing with purple light. Energy readings spiked so high that every sensor within 5 light-years registered the activation. 60 seconds expired, Kozlov said. Fire! The gravitational lance fired. It was not a beam of energy or a kinetic projectile. It was a focused wave of artificial gravity, compressed and directed with precision that bordered on perfection. The wave crossed 2 million kilometers in less than a second. The Vraxian destroyer never had time to raise shields or evade. The gravitational wave hit the ship and reality itself bent. For 1 microsecond, the destroyer experienced gravitational force equivalent to being inside a black hole. Its hull didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply compressed. The ship folded in on itself, crushed into a sphere the size of a basketball. Then the wave passed and the compressed matter expanded in a burst of energy. Where a destroyer had been, there was now only debris and fading radiation. Total time from firing to destruction, 1.3 seconds. The Vraxian fleet stopped. 500 warships cut their engines simultaneously. On every bridge, every sensor station, every tactical display, alarms were screaming. The weapon they had just witnessed was beyond anything in their experience. What? What was that? Thorax whispered. His voice trembled for the first time in his life. His science officer stared at the readings. Commander, they weaponized gravity itself. The mathematics. I didn't think it was possible. The energy required? The precision needed. This is technology centuries beyond our level. Throughout the galaxy, the silence was absolute. Every species watching had seen the same thing. Humans had just demonstrated a weapon that made conventional warfare obsolete. The implications were staggering. On the Council station, Ambassador Chen received messages from dozens of species simultaneously, all asking the same questions. How long have you had this? What else are you hiding? Are we all in danger? Chen ignored the messages. He was watching the display showing the Vraxian fleet, now frozen in space like insects in amber. Kozlov sent another transmission. That was a demonstration. The next shot will be on your flagship, Commander Thorax. You have 1 minute to begin retreat. After that, we will interpret your presence as an act of war and we will respond accordingly. Thorax tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. He tried to think, but his mind was paralyzed with shock. Everything he thought he knew about warfare, about power, about humanity, had just been destroyed as completely as that destroyer. Commander, his second-in-command said urgently, we must retreat. We cannot fight this. We cannot fight them. All fleet, Thorax finally managed to say. Reverse course. Maximum speed. Retreat to home space. The Vraxian fleet turned. 500 warships, which had advanced with such confidence, now fled at maximum speed. They ran like prey from a predator, and behind them the human fleet did not pursue. They simply watched, their weapons ready, their formations perfect, But the demonstration was not over. Across human space, more secrets revealed themselves. Earth's moon began to rotate. Its far side, which had been hidden from alien observation for 50 years, came into view. The entire hemisphere was covered in weapons, massive plasma cannons, missile silos, shield generators. The moon itself was a fortress. At Jupiter Station, the full transformation completed. The station was now fully revealed as a battle platform capable of destroying fleets. Its gravitational lance batteries could reach targets millions of kilometers away. Its point defense systems could track and destroy thousands of incoming missiles simultaneously. The Kuiper Belt fortresses finished moving into position. They formed a defensive sphere around human space, each one a mobile strongpoint capable of independent operation. Their sensors were so powerful, they could detect ships entering human territory from systems away. Their weapons could engage targets at ranges the galaxy considered impossible, and the ships. The real human fleet. 20,000 vessels had been hidden across 50 years of construction. Some built in underground facilities on Mars. Others constructed in deep space shipyards that looked like asteroid mining operations. Still more assembled in the massive construction bays inside Jupiter Station. Every ship was cutting edge. Antimatter power cores provided nearly limitless energy. Quantum computers coordinated fleet movements with perfect precision. Artificial intelligence systems, banned in most of the galaxy as too dangerous, ran targeting calculations. Shield technology that could phase between dimensions to avoid energy weapons. Weapon systems that ranged from conventional missiles to exotic physics no other species had mastered. On the Council Station, the emergency session was in chaos. Representatives from 200 species were all talking at once. Some demanded explanations. Others issued immediate apologies to humanity. The military empires that had been so confident hours before now looked at their fleet assessments and realized they were completely wrong. The Kepler Union representative stood and called for silence. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke directly to where Ambassador Chen sat. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. There was no accusation in his voice, only wonder. Chen stood and walked to the speaking platform. This time no one laughed at his position near the back. The entire council waited for his words. "We began planning the moment we discovered we were not alone in the universe," Chen said. 50 years ago, when we first detected alien signals, humanity's leaders gathered and asked a simple question. What kind of species will we meet? Will they be friendly or hostile? Peaceful or aggressive? He looked around the chamber. Our history taught us the answer. We would meet all kinds. Some would be friends, some would be threats, and some would be predators who saw weakness as opportunity. So we made a choice. We would appear weak while becoming strong. We would seem primitive while advancing our technology. We would look like prey while becoming the deadliest predator in the galaxy. You lied to us, the Zelthian trade representative said, though his tone was more awed than angry. We protected ourselves, Chen corrected. Humanity learned through blood and fire that showing all your strength invites attack. The strong nations on Earth were always targeted by coalitions of weaker ones. So we hid our strength. We let you underestimate us. We waited for someone to make the mistake of threatening us. And now everyone knows. This is what humanity really is. The retreat of the Vraxian fleet was broadcast across every major network in the galaxy. 500 warships, which had departed their home space with confidence and pride, now ran with their shields at maximum, and their sensors constantly scanning behind them for pursuit that never came. On the flagship, Commander Thorax sat in his command chair and stared at nothing. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. But more than that, his understanding of the universe had been shattered. The humans whom he had mocked just days before had revealed themselves as something terrifying. "Commander," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a message from home. The Emperor wants to speak with you." Thorax almost laughed. Of course the Emperor wanted to speak with him. He had led the Empire's fleet into the worst humiliation in Vraxian history. But when the hologram appeared showing Emperor Vrax seated on his throne, Thorax saw something unexpected. The Emperor looked worried, not angry. "Commander, return home immediately," the Emperor said, "and prepare a full report on human capabilities. The Council has also requested that I send formal apologies to Earth. We have miscalculated." "Yes, Your Majesty," Thorax said. "We all miscalculated." After the transmission ended, Thorax looked at his tactical officer. Prepare that report carefully. Include every sensor reading, every energy signature, every weapon system we observed. Other species will want to know what they're facing. Facing, sir? The officer asked. Are we expecting war with humanity? No, Thorax said quietly. We're expecting to never threaten them again. Back on the council station, the emergency session continued. But now the tone had completely changed. Species that had ignored humanity were now requesting meetings. Military alliances that had dismissed human membership were suddenly sending invitations. Trading federations were offering favorable terms. Ambassador Chen watched it all with careful eyes. This was the part that worried him most. Revealing human power had been necessary, but now came the delicate task of managing the aftermath. If humanity appeared too aggressive, they would trigger a defensive alliance against them. If they appeared too weak in their response, other predators would test them. The Andromedan collective representative approached Chen during a break. The Andromedans were energy beings who communicated through controlled bursts of light. Their translation came through as a soft voice. Ambassador Chen, my people wish to understand your intentions. You have demonstrated incredible military capability. What will you do with this power? Chen had been waiting for this question. The Andromedan collective has existed for 10,000 years, he said. In that time, have you ever invaded another species' territory? No, the Andromedan replied. We have always been peaceful. And yet, Chen continued, your species possesses the ability to channel star energy as weapons. You could destroy planets if you chose. Why don't you? The Andromedan pulsed with understanding. Because power without restraint is destruction. Because the strong have a responsibility to protect, not to dominate. Exactly, Chen said. Humanity understands this. We have power. We will use it to defend ourselves and perhaps to defend others who need protection, but we will not use it for conquest. We learned that lesson in our own history. Thousands of years ago. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. The crystalline minds were requesting a private meeting with Chen. This was significant. The crystalline minds rarely spoke and they never requested private audiences. Chen met them in a secure conference room. 3 crystalline beings sat around the table, their forms glowing with internal light. They were among the oldest species in the galaxy, existing for millions of years in their crystal bodies. We wish to discuss what we observed. The lead crystal spoke, her voice like singing glass. The weapon you used on the Vraxian destroyer. The gravitational lance. We have been monitoring physics research across the galaxy for 300,000 years. No species has ever achieved that level of gravitational manipulation. Chen nodded. We had good teachers. Our own planet has strong gravity. Our sun is active and energetic. We learned to study forces that could kill us, and then we learned to harness them. But there is more, the crystal continued. We detected quantum entanglement in your communication systems. We observed antimatter reactions that should not be stable. We measured shield frequencies that phase through dimensional boundaries. These are technologies that most species take thousands of years to develop. You have done it in less than a century of space travel. Chen decided to be honest. The crystalline minds were not a threat. They were observers, philosophers who had seen empires rise and fall. We accelerated our development, he admitted. When we joined the galactic community, we gained access to your knowledge. We studied everything we could find. And then we asked a question that apparently no one else asked. What if we combined all these technologies in new ways? You built on what already existed, the crystal said with understanding. You did not invent gravitational lances from nothing. You took existing gravitational theory and pushed it further. You did not create antimatter containment from scratch. You improved what was already known. Yes, Chen said. Humanity's gift is not invention. It's adaptation. It's taking what exists and making it better. And we had motivation. We were the newcomers in a galaxy full of ancient species. We were weak in a universe where weakness means death. So we worked harder, thought differently, and prepared for the worst. The crystalline minds were silent for a moment, conferring in light patterns too fast for the translator. Finally, the lead spoke again. We approve. You have shown wisdom along with power. This combination is rare. We will support humanity's position in the Council. This was a significant statement. The crystalline minds never took sides in galactic politics. Their support meant legitimacy, acceptance by one of the oldest species in existence. Meanwhile, on Earth, Defense Coordinator Santos was dealing with a different problem. Now that the secret was revealed, humanity's civilian population wanted answers. Why had they been kept in the dark? Why had so many resources gone into secret military projects? Why had they lived under the pretense of weakness? She addressed the planet in a live broadcast. For 50 years, our government maintained the greatest secret in human history. We did this not because we distrusted our people, but because we needed the secret to be real. If our population had known about our true military strength, it would have changed how we acted. It would have shown in our diplomacy, our culture, our behavior. The galaxy would have noticed. Santos pulled up images of the Vraxian fleet's retreat. This is why we kept the secret. Because the moment we revealed our strength, we became a target of a different kind. Now every military power in the galaxy is reassessing their strategies. Some see us as potential allies. Others see us as potential threats. But none of them see us as victims anymore. That was worth 50 years of secrecy. The broadcast seemed to satisfy most people. Humans understood survival. They understood the need for secrets in a dangerous universe. And they understood that their government had been protecting them, not deceiving them. Admiral Kozlov held a different kind of meeting. She stood in a conference room with representatives from 5 other species, all military commanders who had requested urgent consultations. They wanted to know what humanity's intentions were, fleet deployment plans, alliance possibilities. Let me be clear, Kozlov said, standing at the head of the table. The fleet you saw is our defensive force. Every ship, every weapon, every station exists to protect human space. We are not planning expansion. We are not seeking conquest. We are establishing boundaries and defending them absolutely. But what about the rest of the galaxy? Asked the Kepler Union admiral. What if another species is threatened? Would humanity help? Kozlov considered this carefully. That depends on the situation. We will not be the galaxy's police force. We will not fight others' wars. But if we see genuine threats to peaceful species, if we see the kind of predatory expansion that the Vraxians attempted. She paused. Then we will consider our options. This was carefully worded. Humanity was offering protection without commitment, strength without aggression. It was a delicate balance, but necessary. Later that day, Chen received a message from Earth. It was marked with the highest security clearance. When he opened it, he saw Director Santos's face. David, it's time for the final reveal, she said. The Council needs to understand the complete picture. They think they've seen our full military capability. They haven't. Chen felt his stomach tighten. You want to tell them about the offensive fleet? Yes, Santos said. They need to know that what they saw was just our defense. They need to understand that if we ever decide to attack, if we're ever pushed that far, the weapons they've seen are nothing compared to what we've kept hidden. Chen thought about this. It was a calculated risk. Revealing even more capability could frighten the galaxy into forming alliances against humanity, but not revealing it could make others think humanity was vulnerable to coordinated attack. I'll prepare the statement, Chen said, but let me do it subtly. Let me hint at greater capability without giving details. Let them imagine what we might have. Fear of the unknown is more powerful than fear of the known. 3 months passed after the revelation. The galaxy adjusted slowly to its new reality. Like an ecosystem adapting to the arrival of a new apex predator, trade routes shifted. Military alliances were rewritten. Species that had been hostile to each other for centuries suddenly found common ground in their mutual caution toward humanity. Admiral Sarah Kozlov stood in the observation deck of Olympus Station, looking out at the ships moving through human space. The station's true nature was now known to everyone. What had appeared to be a simple trading post was revealed as one of the most powerful military installations in the galaxy. Tour groups from other species requested visits almost daily, eager to see human technology up close. Today's visitors were special. A delegation of military officers from 5 different species, including one from the Kepler Union, had requested a comprehensive tour. They wanted to understand human capabilities, to see what their sensors had detected from afar. Admiral Kozlov, the Kepler Union commander said as he entered the observation deck. His name was Tarek, and his species looked like upright reptiles with silver scales. Thank you for agreeing to this visit. My government is very interested in establishing stronger ties with humanity. Welcome aboard, Kozlov replied. She gestured to the massive windows showing the station's interior. What you're looking at is the main hangar bay. We can dock and service 200 ships simultaneously. The station is entirely self-sufficient and can operate independently for 5 years without resupply. The visiting officers stared at the bay. Ships moved in perfect coordination, guided by AI systems that calculated thousands of trajectories per second. Repair drones worked on hulls with precision down to the molecular level. Everything was efficient, organized, and impressive. "Your construction techniques are remarkable," said the Andromedan representative, her light form pulsing with interest. "How did you build something this large without us noticing?" Kozlov smiled. "We built it in pieces over 40 years. Each component was constructed to look like civilian equipment. Solar panels, habitat modules, communication arrays. Nobody watches civilian construction very carefully. By the time we connected all the pieces, the station was complete and everyone thought it had always been a trading post." She led them through corridors lined with equipment. "This is one of our gravitational lance batteries," she said, stopping at a viewing window. Beyond the glass, a massive weapon system stretched for half a kilometer. Crystal focusing arrays surrounded a central core that glowed with contained energy. "How does it work?" asked a military scientist from the Zelthian Trade Federation. "I can give you the basics," Kozlov said. "The core generates a localized gravitational field that we compress and shape. The crystal arrays focus and direct it. When fired, it creates a beam of gravity that can reach targets millions of kilometers away. The effect on a ship is catastrophic. The gravitational force tears it apart at the molecular level. And the range?" Tarek asked. "Classified," Kozlov replied, "but sufficient for any defensive need." She led them to another section of the station. "This is our command center. From here, we can coordinate every human military asset across 50 light years. Our quantum communication systems allow instant coordination. No lightspeed delay, no lag time. Every ship receives orders simultaneously." The visitors studied the holographic displays showing ship positions, sensor data, and threat assessments. The level of coordination was beyond anything most species had achieved. "We've been analyzing your tactics," Tarek said carefully. "The way your ships moved during the confrontation with the Varaxians. The perfect formation. The instant response times. It's like watching a single organism rather than individual ships. How do you achieve that level of coordination?" Kozlov knew this question would come. "AI assistance," she admitted. "Most of the galaxy has banned military AI, considering it too dangerous. We use it extensively, but with safeguards, controls, and human oversight. Our AI calculates optimal positions, tracks threats, and recommends responses. But humans make the final decisions." The officers exchanged looks. Using AI in military applications was controversial, but it clearly gave humanity an enormous advantage. "I have a question," the Andromedan said. "Why are you showing us this? Why reveal your capabilities so openly?" Kozlov had been waiting for this question too. "Because secrets have a cost. For 50 years we hid our strength because we needed time to build it. Now that the galaxy knows we exist as a military power, continuing to hide details would only create paranoia. Better to show you what we have, let you understand it, and remove the fear of the unknown." She paused. "Also, we want the galaxy to know that this power exists for defense. The more you understand our capabilities, the more you'll realize we're not a threat to peaceful species. We're only a threat to aggressors." The tour continued for hours. The visitors saw antimatter reactors, shield generators that could phase through dimensions, manufacturing facilities that could build new ships in weeks rather than years. Everything was impressive, everything was advanced, but Kozlov was careful to show only defensive systems. The offensive fleet remained hidden. On Earth, Ambassador Chen's brother David Chen had returned for consultations. He met with Defense Coordinator Santos in her office overlooking the Rockies. "The galaxy is settling into a new equilibrium," David reported. "Most species are accepting humanity's position. Trade is actually increasing. Our technology might be scary, but our goods are valuable." Santos nodded. "What about the aggressive species? The ones who might still consider us a target?" "They're being very quiet," David said. "The Vraxian Empire has become incredibly diplomatic. The Carthian Dominion, which was planning expansion into neutral space, suddenly canceled those plans. Even the Rigel Collective, which usually tests boundaries, is being respectful of our borders." "Fear is an effective deterrent," Santos said, "but it's not sustainable forever. Fear fades. Memories of our demonstration will fade. Eventually someone will test us again." "True," David agreed. But by then we'll have established relationships, trade agreements, and alliances. We'll be integrated into the galactic community in ways that make aggression against us harmful to everyone. This was the long-term strategy. Use the initial shock of revelation to establish security, then build economic and diplomatic ties that made war unthinkable. It was the same strategy that had worked on Earth centuries before, when nuclear weapons had forced humanity to find alternatives to total war. 6 months after the revelation, the Galactic Council held a special session. The topic was a proposed mutual defense treaty, something the galaxy had never successfully established before. Species were too diverse, too distrustful, too competitive, but now, with humanity as an example of what could be hidden, everyone was more interested in cooperation. Ambassador Chen stood at the podium, presenting humanity's position. "We support this treaty," he said, "but we have conditions. First, the treaty must protect all signatories equally. No species gets preferential treatment. Second, it must be defensive only. We will not support wars of aggression. Third, it must have clear rules about what constitutes an attack and what constitutes a proportional response." The council debated for hours. Some species wanted humanity to lead the defense force. Others feared giving humans too much authority. Eventually, they reached a compromise. A joint defense command would be established with representatives from multiple species. Humanity would contribute ships and technology, but command would be shared. The treaty passed with only 3 dissenting votes. It was historic, the first time the galaxy had united for mutual protection, and it had only happened because humanity's revelation had shocked everyone into cooperation. 1 year after the revelation, Admiral Kozlov received an urgent message. A small species called the Tavori, who lived on the edge of explored space, were under attack. The Carthian Dominion, despite their earlier caution, had decided to test whether the galaxy really meant to enforce its new defense treaty. Kozlov assembled a fleet. 50 human ships joined by vessels from the Kepler Union, the Andromedan Collective, and even a few Vraxian cruisers. It was a multi-species force, but humanity provided the core strength. They arrived in Tavori space to find the Carthian fleet besieging the homeworld. 300 Carthian warships surrounded the planet, demanding surrender. Kozlov sent a simple message. "Carthian Dominion, you are in violation of the Mutual Defense Treaty. Withdraw immediately or face coalition response." The Carthian commander replied with contempt. "The treaty is meaningless. The Tavori are weak. You will not risk war to save them." "You're wrong," Kozlov said, and she gave the order. The human ships moved forward, gravitational lances charging. Behind them, the Allied fleet followed. For the first time since the treaty was signed, the galaxy would see if it meant anything. The Carthians fired first, confident in their numbers. Their weapons struck the human shields and dissipated harmlessly. The phase-dimensional technology rendered conventional weapons nearly useless. Human return fire was precise and devastating. Gravitational lances struck 3 Carthian ships, compressing them into debris. Antimatter torpedoes from human cruisers destroyed 5 more. Within 30 seconds, the Carthian fleet lost 8 ships.